You can't teach entrepreneurship. You're born as an entrepreneur. I think that that is a ridiculous and exclusionary notion that is like propagated by a group of people who want to make themselves feel and sound special and magical.
Do you feel like entrepreneurship is something that can be taught? And if yes, can it be taught entirely, or are there some inherent qualities that you think entrepreneurs share?
Well, I'm gonna maybe be a little provocative here, okay? As opposed to a lot of other entrepreneurs or maybe VCs, where they'll talk about the idea that you can't teach entrepreneurship. You're born as an entrepreneur. I think that that is a ridiculous and exclusionary notion that is like propagated by a group of people who want to make themselves feel and sound special and magical. I think that in their experience, they may feel that they always had that in them. And that's great. That's how they came to entrepreneurship. But I don't think that actually is an accurate reflection of the paths that you can take to become an entrepreneur. Let's agree that the founding, principles of curiosity and fearlessness and relentlessness could be applied in a million different directions. You can apply that in your career. You can apply that to like politics. You can apply it to charitable work and in the nonprofit sector, or you could apply that to an entrepreneurial lens. What I think you can teach from an entrepreneurial perspective is that you can show people how to harness those natural skill sets to the best and fastest benefit in the entrepreneurial space. And there's certainly an incredible number of practical lessons that you can teach in terms of like, how do you raise money? How do you recruit people? How do you like the hows of it, right? Can absolutely be taught. Many of us who started out without a lot of that type of education around us or accelerators or support systems or established mentorship networks. Yeah, of course, we learned it by making 400,000 mistakes along the way. And over the course of a decade, then we finally got to a point where, we had our founding, our founding principles in terms of the how and how we make things happen. I don't think you have to learn that through a decade or two. I think that an incredible amount of that can be taught, and it can be taught by sharing the right stories and having the right guides and mentors and advisors surrounding not just people who are like minted born entrepreneurs, but just really innovative, young, bright students and graduates who have ideas and dreams and want to do incredible things. So I 100% feel that entrepreneurship can be taught. You can't make someone hungry. You can't make them stay up all night around the clock. You can't teach them to have drive and to have like the fearlessness to pick up the phone and call 100 clients in a row when 3 of them are only going to say yes. I mean, you can tell them about it, but those core principles of like what is consuming you to like succeed and to create and to build and to tell your story and to share that, you have those things. Right. But we can absolutely teach you how to do them better and do them in a more focused way and how to like achieve faster success.
Well, I kind of like to think of it sometimes as, to demystify anything, whether it's entrepreneurship as a skill, a set of skills, or like playing music or playing a sport, it's to break it down into a set of skills, right? So entrepreneurship, which is a collection of these different things that you have to learn and, at least to some capacity, be good at in order to push your idea forward. Back in the day, unless you had that exposure, you probably would have a very hard time acquiring those skills. But if you look at, if I wanted to learn how to play guitar, 20, 30 years ago, and there isn't somebody within my vicinity that is a decent guitar player that I can sit with and learn from, my chances of becoming a good guitar player are very, very slim. So as technology and access to information expanded, we are able to learn new skills easier. I think entrepreneurship falls into that too, because right now, entrepreneurship is one of the hottest things out there. And it's no longer something that you trade in your career for necessarily to pursue something, grandiose out there in the skies. It's something that people are starting to turn out of their passions, and they're turning their passions into side hustles. And then suddenly they're learning about how to register a business, how to do your accounting, how to grow a team slightly, how to create a contract, how to hire a graphic designer, those little things. And all of a sudden you're picking up like a new basket of skills that you're good at. So I love your sentiment that it absolutely can be taught. And I believe that anybody has that power in them. They just have to take the first step. But that's true for anything in life, isn't it?
One of the things that I want to make sure that when we're working at Schulich and York University, what inspires me is the idea that, I believe that every single person will have three moments in their life where they have an idea or an opportunity that could lead to a business, an insight. It may be something that they experience that is a pain point in going through their day-to-day world, where they experience something that is like a problem, something that doesn't work, or they have an insight into something that is like a way of fixing something, or they hear a group of people around them that are talking about how they're frustrated with something. So I really want, like, as part of teaching in the entrepreneurial studies group and building our community, that people will learn how to recognize those moments, to not be afraid of those moments, to see them as the opportunity they are. And even if they don't know what to do immediately about it, they know where to go, who to ask. They know that there's an open door with like key communities of people or programs to talk to, so they could take advantage of that opportunity. Because how many people have you met in your own life? I could say like everybody who I've ever interacted with has said, yeah, I had this idea one time, that like,
Right.
type of thing. We're all going to have them. So, I just think it's a better society, it's a better economy, a better future world in Canada if as many people as possible have the mindset and the understanding that there's places they can go to get help to create things when those ideas come up. We should try to like manifest as many of those insights and opportunities into new things in the world as possible, and having like a nation of innovators and entrepreneurs would just be to the benefit of the growth of the country.
I'm curious, over your experience, what have you picked up that successful founders, entrepreneurs share in terms of their perhaps qualities or approach to execution, their ideas? And also, what are some of the most common pitfalls that you see new or also more experienced entrepreneurs fall into that's preventing them from achieving growth as fast as they could?
The number one thing that I'm looking for and that I've seen consistently in terms of being either like the real winning factor that an entrepreneur has or their ultimate downfall is their ability to listen, right? And if I look back on all the different startup investments that I've made over time, and I think about who really won, who went all the way, and which were the ones that like burned out the fastest, the ability to listen and be open-minded and understand what the feedback was that was coming from the market, from staff, from clients, from like, advisors, has been the fundamental differentiator as to who wins and who loses. Now, this is maybe a little bit counterintuitive because we've all heard the stories of like the glorified, like stubborn entrepreneurs who told everyone they were wrong, and Steve Jobs didn't listen to people and what they wanted them to build. He told them what they needed and made it, and all these things. And I'm not saying that's not true, but the danger with like over fixating on particular narratives or stories is that it's like people designing their entire model of what they're building off of like what Facebook did, right? It's a statistical anomaly in terms of the existence of how a company was built and what happened to it, that at that point, my view is that it might as well have not even existed, because if it existed like once or twice, don't take that as the model and try to use that as like replication, because otherwise you're going to have like a billion failures alongside everything else. Well, I really think in terms of consistently the people that I've seen that have succeeded, they haven't been, relentlessly stubborn or closed-minded in terms of what they're taking to the market. They've been really, really great listeners. They will be the kind of people that when you observe them as a founder in meetings, they will be able to stop and listen and really lock in when someone's telling them something that's really important. And then the next thing out of their mouth will be the most phenomenal follow-up question that they could ask, not a counterpoint as to why their solution or their idea or their view of the world is the right view, and that the person who's giving them the feedback just doesn't understand. And I've also noticed, over my years, that same quality, and particularly maybe it's a particular quality inside the Canadian ecosystem and inside the Canadian, kind of like psyche, is that people who listen and communicate like that get rapidly introduced to other people within our networks. Mm-hmm. And people who don't, don't get introduced, right? Because we all have a certain way that we like to see people communicate, right? We do want people to be relentless, and we want them to be bold, and we want them to be confident. We want them to like be fearless, but those qualities need to be tempered by an open-mindedness and an ability to listen and then ask great questions that I think are fundamental to people achieving success.